Hi, thanks for joining me for this 10-minute tutorial. What we're going to be looking at today is seventh chords. So I'm going to be explaining some of the theory behind seventh chords and also giving you some simple ways of voicing some really nice seventh chords. So let's get started. Right, so seventh chords. We're familiar already with basic triad chords, that's chords that have got three notes in them. Major chords and minor chords, and that they are made up, a major chord is made up of taking the first, the third and the fifth note of a major scale. So the scale is C major, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I take the first, the third, fifth, play them together and I get a chord of C major. Minor scales always have the third, when you compare it with the major scale, the third note is down a semitone. It's what makes it sound, gives it that sad quality. So a C minor chord will have the first, the third and the fifth of the minor scale. Or to take a major chord into a minor chord, you just take the third note of the scale down a semitone and it changes its quality hugely. C major, C minor, C major, C minor. But I want you to get your head around this. I don't need to say C major for that. I can call it C major, but if I just say C, we automatically assume that we're talking about C major. So if I say play me a chord of C, you don't have to say, well, do you mean C major or C minor? Automatically assume that it's C major, yeah? So there's a chord of C, and there's a chord of C minor. Now a seventh chord, because the way we name chords is based on the number of the note in the scale. So a C7 chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, is going to have some kind of 7 in it, as well as the 1, 3 and 5. So that's what you would think would be a chord of C7, yeah? C7, you would think that would be. However, it's a bit confusing because this chord is actually known as a major seventh chord. And that's because the seventh note of the major scale is called the major seventh. Okay, now this is a bit tricky to get your head around, but the seventh note of the major scale is called the major seventh. So that is C. Okay, this is the major seventh note. So this chord is called C major 7, and I want you to think of that as C major 7. C major 7. Okay, and it's got that really nice dreamy quality to it. Okay, and then you might say, well, what about C7? Well, C7 is actually that. So when we just hear the word 7 by itself, it's actually not the seventh note in the major scale. It's the seventh note in the major scale down a semitone. All right, and you might say, well, that's not fair. Why do we call that C7? Well, that note is actually the seventh note in what we call a Mixolydian scale. There are all sorts of scales, not just major and minor scales. The Mixolydian scale, which when you compare it with the major scale, takes the seventh note down a semitone, is very common in popular music and jazz. So it is the seventh note of that scale. So because this chord came to be used earlier than this chord, I suppose it got there first to be called the 7 chord. So we know that as C7. In more classical terminology, you might say, well, isn't that a dominant seventh? Yes, don't worry about that if you didn't understand that at the moment. That's to do with its function, but in more classical terminology, that's often known as a dominant seventh chord. But in pop music and jazz, that's called a 7 chord. That chord is C7. That chord is C major 7. And when I say the word major in that, it's got nothing to do with the fact that this is a C major chord. Remember, we can just call that C. C major 7. C 7. C minor 7. Yeah? 7 always just means the lowered 7. C minor 7. Minor always means that chord. C minor 7. I could even have C minor major 7. Major 7 is the name of that note, remember. C minor major 7. Quite an unusual chord, but that's what it's called. And you can see logically why. C minor, that note is called the major 7. C minor, 7. 7 always means lowered 7th from the major scale. So there we have 3 types of 7 chord. Major 7th, 7th, minor 7th. Okay, so that's the theory behind it. And you want to try and get familiar with what they all sound like, the difference. The really sort of dreamy sounding major 7th chord was a sort of later development really in terms of jazz music. The very bluesy 7th chord that sounds like it's going to lead somewhere. It sounds like a stepping stone chord. It's going to lead somewhere. And then the minor 7th chord. Is this the real life? From Bohemian Rhapsody. Okay, so there's the theory behind those chords. I'm just going to show you actually some very simple ways of voicing those chords. Voicing means how the order in which we choose to play the notes. So I can play a C chord there, I can play it there, I can play it there. All I'm doing is I'm taking the 1st, the 3rd and the 5th note of C and I'm just playing them in different places. All the notes are the same. I'm not adding any new notes in there. I'm just choosing the order in which I put them. That's what we mean by the chord voicing. So that's a very full voicing of a C chord, C, E, G, C, E, G, C. That's a different voicing. Still the same notes, C, C, E, G. Yeah. So we're going to look at a simple way of voicing these chords. So let's look at this C major 7 chord. I could play it like that, but then I've got to use 4 notes in my right hand, which is a bit trickier to actually spread the hand out there. So instead of playing the 7th note there, the 7th note is also there. Can you see that? Just an octave down. So adding a B to a C chord, C major chord if you like, makes it a C major 7. I'm not voicing it there, I'm voicing it there instead. Okay. Now you might say, well hang on, you're missing the C. I'm not, because I've got the C there. Alright? When I play it like that, I've got 2 C's. I don't have to have 2 C's. That is still a chord of C. That is still a chord of C. That is still a chord of C. I've got the 3 notes that I need. So if instead of having that C twice, I move it down a semitone, the note that is 1 semitone below the root note is the 7th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7, 8, 7. So that's an easy way to play C major 7. Yeah, you just move the thumb down a semitone. And this works, we can look at this in different chords later on. There's a chord of E, so there is a chord of E major 7, can you see? I've just moved the thumb down a semitone. Same with D, D major 7. Okay, works with anything. As long as your thumb is on the root, and you've got the root note in the left hand, it won't work like that. Let's go back to C. There's a chord of C, there's C major 7, yeah? If I take the C away, that is now not a chord of C major 7. I've got no C in it. That's an inversion of an E minor chord. Listen to how it changes it totally as soon as I add the C. So there's C, C major 7. Now, that's the 7th note. If I move it down another semitone, I've got C7, haven't I? Because that's the 7th note down a semitone. Or you could think it's 1 tone below the root note, 2 semitones. C, C7. C, C major 7. C, C7. Now if I then make it minor, that is C minor 7, isn't it? C minor 7 with that voicing. If I just, that's not good fingers, but you can see the notes more clearly. So we're going to do this exercise, and you can practice this at home. We're going to do this together right left pattern that I use quite a lot. There's C, C major 7, C7, C minor 7. Add some rhythm to it. 4 different chords: C, C major 7, C7, if you know your other chords, we start on D, we can then just repeat this all the way up the keyboard. D, D major 7, D7, D minor 7, and so on. E, E major 7, E7, E minor 7, etc. all the way up. So if I'm playing a chord of E flat and I think, oh, I want to make it 7, I move it down a tone. Major 7, semitone. Yeah? And you can do, it's just a quick, easy way to find those sevenths. Okay, so just practice that. And then if you feel like it, move up. Etc. Try it on the black note chords. C sharp, C sharp major 7, C sharp 7, C sharp minor 7. Easy, just by moving the thumb. Okay, practice that and I'll see you in the next session.